Sportscast, March 30th, 2020. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels. We're on Periscope. We are on iTunes. We're on Facebook. And if you're on iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And today's guest, for today's sponsor is Insta Bible app, Create Verses in Pictures, and you can get the app on the Apple App Store. Today we have Alex Gilstrap. He's a contributor to NFL Mocks and Pro Football Ready director. Alex, welcome back to the Sportscast.
Hey man, how you doing today?
Good. It's been a crazy couple weeks in sports, but what's keeping the engines going is the NFL draft.
Right. Yeah. So one good thing about being so big into the draft is that, quarantine or no quarantine, I still get some time and I still have lots of film to watch. So I've been keeping myself busy throughout this time, and it's gone by pretty quick for me. Hopefully all things get better, obviously. Just continue to stay safe. But it's helped me get a lot of work done. So I guess I can be thankful for that.
Alex, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a current college student. I'm 21. Actually, just turned 21 this past week. Always fun to have a 21st birthday during a quarantine like this. But yeah, I reside just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been big into the draft for a few years now. Been scouting myself. This is my second year, and it's just been a lot of real fun. I've found a lot of people on Twitter throughout the way that have helped me learn the game, not only learn the game, but learn what to look for and stuff like that. So I've really came a long way in that, and I've built up a pretty good following myself over the course of the last year or so, grading players numerically and just giving out some takes. So that's a little bit about myself.
Which, of course, I know you're unbiased, but which teams you support? NFL, college?
Yeah, so born and raised in Georgia, I'm a big hometown guy. So Falcons, Georgia Bulldogs is my college team that I support, and if you want to go to baseball, all Atlanta, so Braves, Hawks, all of it.
Yeah, which the Georgia Bulldogs have had a great recruiting these past two seasons.
Right. Yeah.
Like, why is that so incredible? I mean, like, what has made them like one of the top recruiting schools in America?
Facilities for sure. When you have as much money and as the alumni at the University of Georgia, does a lot of things really well to where they fund the program to where they're able to compete with the Oregons and the Alabamas with some of the best facilities. And that's what really captures the big recruits' eyes, is like having a barbershop in the locker room, for one thing, is something small, but it goes a long way in making them stand out. And of course the success, I think Kirby Smart has done a really good job of really connecting with the kids. He's kind of got that, cool demeanor that, you see with Dabo Swinney at Clemson. That really gets along with the kids, but also keeps them on their stuff and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So yeah, I think it's a good combination. And then the history of the program, always, pretty much having a successful program since it started, always being close. And I think that's a problem that us Georgia fans in general, Falcons, everything, we can get close, but we can't finish the drill. So all of it is for nothing, since national championships are year in and year out the end-all be-all goal. Just haven't had one yet.
With all this, Alabama's dynasty, you think Georgia will take over the SEC eventually soon?
It's hard to say. I think Georgia's right there with Alabama right now, especially with Alabama losing a bunch of key pieces that I know we're going to talk about a little bit more later. But Georgia's always going to be close. Florida looks like they're making a little bit of a comeback. Dan Mullen's doing a great job with that program. LSU, obviously, coming off the year they are, they're going to take a step down, losing, again, kind of like Alabama. We have some guys we're going to talk about in this episode whenever we get to the mock draft. But LSU's losing a bunch of players. I think Georgia's, next in line. They should be. There's no doubt, especially with the recruiting classes, like you mentioned, that they've had come in the last couple of years and continue to have come in. They should be next.
Yeah, Georgia is definitely up there in the pecking order when it comes to the SEC. And just like what Alex was saying, Florida's right behind them. So we'll see how the things have kind of shifted. It seems like Alabama has been losing a couple of centimeters of a step. So we'll see how things will crumble for the SEC. Of course, NFL mock draft obviously is something that here at the Sportscast we kind of change it up every week, maybe at times every day. Now with the NFL free agency, couple of changes, but obviously there's still some time for trades or have some movement across like the couple of weeks. NFL draft is in less than a month away, April 23rd through the 25th. Roger Goodell, he has announced that the NFL draft will be on no matter what. But the format of where it will be placed is unsure. It could be in Bristol, Connecticut, up in ESPN, or it could be at the NFL headquarters or at the NFL studios. So we'll definitely see what happens. Let's start with the mock. We'll start at number 1.
Yeah, so number 1, I think there's no question about it. Cincinnati needs to bring in their guy, and that's Joe Burrow. He's the number 1 quarterback in this class. There's no doubt about it. Arguably the number 1 overall player in this class. And that's where franchises start, is that the quarterback position is the most important position on the field. And you have to shore that up before you can compete, especially in a division like they have. Pittsburgh is still up there. Cleveland is, though they had a disappointing year this past season, we had some high hopes for them. Maybe a new coaching staff coming in with all that talent on paper, they're poised to make a run. And obviously, the Lamar Jackson train is still going to be rolling. So that's a tough division. And I think to even be, even to compete at this point, you have to have a quarterback. And Joe Burrow is the number 1 quarterback in this class, undoubtedly.
Number 2 is Washington Redskins. Of course, there was rumors of them maybe selecting the quarterback. Who do you have, Alex?
Yeah, there has been those rumors passed around. They've met with the other top quarterbacks in Tua and Justin Herbert. I've actually mocked Tua to Washington before all this rumors came out. I did it in probably January. I got a lot of heat for it. Then Mel Kiper brings it up, Adam Schefter brings it up, them meeting with Tua, and it becomes this rumor. So I like to think that I was first on that train. But I think the pick here is Chase Young. He's my top player in this draft. That's actually one position group that Washington's actually not bad at. They have some guys there. They brought in Montez Sweat last year. But Chase Young, you can't pass up a generational talent like that. And Chase Young, Nick Bosa had a phenomenal rookie season this past year. They played together 2 years ago at Ohio State, and Chase Young has the potential to be better year 1 and potential later on to be better. So I think it's an easy choice. It's Chase Young.
Yeah, and now especially when the Redskins brought in Kyle Allen and recently,
yeah.
So that kind of raises those rumors of them selecting the quarterback. Number 3 is Detroit Lions, another place that people have been rumoring a quarterback. Who do you have, Alex?
Yeah, I think this is a big trade potential pick for them to trade back and get one of those top quarterbacks. So you have Miami that could trade up. Obviously, the Chargers and Panthers are quarterback needy as well. And but we're not doing trades here today. And I think for me, Darius Slay being out of town here. I think Jeffrey Okudah is the pick here. He's undoubtedly one of the best players in this class. He's my top cornerback. He's my number 4 overall player in this class, and I don't think you can miss on Jeffrey Okudah.
Very safe pick. Speaking about trades, there was a rumor today about the Raiders trading up. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm a part of the crowd that thinks that Derek Carr's not the fix, and I could see them trying to trade up and get their guy. I don't know if they're quite in the position, because outside the quarterback position, it would be nice. For the Chargers, for instance, I could see them trading up because they're a quarterback away from competing for a Super Bowl. But the Raiders, they have a few needs. I don't think trading up is in their best interest, especially because Derek Carr is not. He's an average quarterback in the NFL. Though I don't think he's going to bring him to a Super Bowl. I think they have too many needs right now to invest so much in a quarterback.
Something that I do which I've been hearing this for a bit, that John Gruden is not in love with Derek Carr.
Right, exactly. That's I'm kind of a part of the same train. I think Derek Carr's he's a middling quarterback. I don't know if he's one of those quarterbacks that can bring you to that Super Bowl contention, like I said. So I think eventually down the road in the next couple of years, that is going to be a target for him as the quarterback position. But I think right now they need to shore up some other position groups that really need some upgrading.
Next, number 4, New York Giants, a team that's not rumored to have a quarterback. They have Danny Jones. Who do they pick from here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. This is with no trades involved. I think the Lions are a lot to get Jeffrey Okudah. Number 4 is really where I feel like this draft starts. If there's no trades involved, like I said, you could take 2 different routes here, and I couldn't argue with either one. You can go offensive tackle and get your pick of the top offensive tackle. There's 4 at the top that I really can't argue if you have one over the other. So offensive tackle is always in right here. But then there's Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker, safety, defensive specialist, whatever you want to call him from Clemson. I think Isaiah Simmons is special. But here I think, you got to take advantage of what you have right now, and that's Saquon Barkley on a rookie contract, and you really have to shore up that offensive line. He's not actually my number 1 rated offensive tackle. My number 1 rated offensive tackle is Jedrick Wills out of Alabama, but I think the better fit for the Giants is Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. So Andrew Thomas is actually my 2nd rated offensive tackle prospect, just ahead of Tristan Wirfs. But I think Andrew Thomas brings a little bit more versatility. He's better in the run game than I think Jedrick Wills is at this moment, and I think that really benefits the Giants and how they want to win, and that's running the ball first, and then running the offense through Saquon. So I think Andrew Thomas would be a better fit for them right now.
That is when a whole lot of mockups are pointing towards Andrew Thomas. So we'll see if that pans out. Number 5, Miami Dolphins, very controversial here at the Sportscast. We're going back with Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa. Alex, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm higher than most on Justin Herbert actually. So Justin Herbert's one of my guys. However, if Tua is healthy, which all signs right now, obviously it's kind of difficult to get much information with the coronavirus stuff going on, but all things pointing up like it is, Tua Tagovailoa looks healthy. He's a safer prospect than Justin Herbert. I think there's no denying that. And I think Tua is just a security blanket for that offense, and he can be, if health permits, he can be a quarterback that can be around for 15, 20 years and just run a franchise. I think he's the pick here. I'll be surprised if he's actually selected with the 5th overall pick when it's all said and done, just because I think there will be someone that gets aggressive and tries to get in front of Miami to take him. So it'll be interesting to see how that top 5 actually plays out, seeing if someone trades up or not. But if everything stays the way it is, I think Tua is the pick at 5.
Yeah, and of course there was a video that Tua, which released last week on Twitter. I believe it was on a Monday or Tuesday. Do you think there needs to be more video evaluation, or you think that video was enough? I mean, what are your thoughts about his whole situation of coaches not able to see him for now?
Right, yeah, that's what makes this situation so difficult this time especially. I think the video obviously showed that he's moving right now, which is a good sign, but obviously it's scripted. He knew where his body was going, and that's not really the concern. The concern is when he's having to move on the fly and react. Will his body be able to hold up with that hip especially? So that's really what makes this situation interesting. On any other year, he'd be going to all these teams' camps, and they'd be having one-on-one time with him and seeing exactly how he's moving. Everyone would be in attendance for pro day, and they'd ask him to do different things to really get a feel for how that hip is. So it really does make it interesting. But everything that's coming out is positive. So, I'm going to trust what's coming out of his camp right now. And I think Miami is as well. I think there's been some rumors that Miami's prefers Justin Herbert. I think that's one of those smokescreen scenarios where they're just hyping up one thing to, kind of maybe drive down that price or drive down that market to trade up in front of them. So it's a really, really interesting situation. This one of my things I'm looking forward to most come draft weekend.
Number 6, LA Chargers. Is it the obvious choice? What does Alex have?
Yeah, so this one's tough. Their biggest needs, obviously, are quarterback and offensive tackle. However, offensive tackle, they really did a good job during free agency period of bringing in some veterans. Obviously, Brian Bulaga being the headliner there, bringing in from Green Bay. So, both tackle spots were a need coming into the offseason. They look like they're prioritizing that in free agency. And I think that's them saying that they're getting their future at quarterback. They have a very, very young team right now. Mike Williams is one of the best young receivers in football. They just franchise tagged Hunter Henry and hopefully can sign him to a long-term deal as a younger tight end. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And then on the defensive side of the ball, obviously Derwin James, Joey Bosa, it's Casey Hayward. They have a very, very talented team. It's all up to that offense, the offensive line and that quarterback position for them to make a Super Bowl run. I think they grab their future, and like I said, I'm higher on this player than most, and that's Justin Herbert. I think that'd be a perfect fit, especially with the targets they have, with Keenan Allen that I didn't mention before, and Austin Eckler now signed to a long-term deal. I think that offense has all the weapons in the world, which is something Justin Herbert has never had at Oregon. He's never had an abundance of weapons. So going into a roster with that amount of talent, I think the ceiling, you can't. What did Michael Jordan say? The ceiling is the roof for Justin Herbert. So yeah. I think that's a match made in heaven, truly.
Yeah, and also today, Justin Herbert had a video meeting with the Chargers and Raiders, as we were talking about before.
Right.
So Chargers is definitely warming up to Herbert. Now, do you see a scenario where it could flip-flop, Dolphins take Herbert and Chargers take Tua?
Oh, without a doubt. I actually, I've been on record to say that Tua to the Chargers is my favorite quarterback to team fit there is, because Tua, that's what he did at Alabama. Is he had weapons. He just got them in their hands and let them do work. He's a security blanket. He's going to take care of the football, and he's going to put it in playmakers' hands. That's what he did all throughout his career at Alabama with that receiving core. And that's exactly what the Chargers bring to the table. Mike Williams, just throw it up to him. He's a big red zone target. Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners in football. Hunter Henry's one of the most underrated tight ends in football. And Austin Eckler, he showed you what he can do last year. So they have all the playmakers that they need. They just need a quarterback to get it in their hands. Phillip Rivers kind of struggled with that. Obviously, the offensive line is at fault there too. But prioritizing offensive line and free agency, and then grabbing one of these top 3 quarterbacks, obviously probably no chance at Joe Burrow. So one of those next 2 quarterbacks with the 6th overall pick, I think that sets them up for a long time with a lot of potential.
Next, Carolina Panthers. Also some rumblings about a quarterback, but they got Bridgewater and that Will Grier and Phillip Walker in the bench. Who do you have?
Yeah, so them bringing in Teddy Bridgewater really lets me know that they're gonna push quarterback back a year, maybe compete for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes potentially. But here, I think that Derek Brown's been pegged to him a lot. Obviously, a little bit of a disappointing combine. Don't take too much stock into that. But you just got to take the best player available at a position of need, and that's Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. Obviously, Luke Kuechly retiring hurts that linebacking core. They still got Shaq Thompson, who's a very talented linebacker. I think you'll move him into the Mike spot over in the middle, and then kind of have Isaiah Simmons as that guy that can match up with tight ends or slot receivers even. I think Isaiah Simmons can do it all, and he's going to make, if Carolina grabs him, a very, very happy team for the next 10, 12 years.
And, I mean, there's also been rumors about Panthers trying to trade up. You think that's still a possibility?
Yeah, not as much as it used to be. I think, like I said, with Teddy Bridgewater, I think that them signing Teddy Bridgewater to that deal, I think that's them saying, look, Teddy Bridgewater's good enough to start for our team in 2020. But I don't think that takes them out of the cards to look for quarterback next year. Obviously, I mentioned Trevor Lawrence, but also you can get Justin Fields, who really is very similar to Cam Newton coming out of school. People peg him as a run-first quarterback, but don't get it twisted. This guy's got just as good of an arm as Trevor Lawrence about. And that big body is hard to take down, hard to sack. I think they're very similar. That might be my comp for them when it's all said and done. So I can see that being a great match.
The next, Arizona Cardinals, who had a great NFL free agency period. They're going to put a cherry on top with the 8th pick. Alex, who do you have?
Yeah, here, you got a quick offense, right? Very obviously adding DeAndre Hopkins kind of mitigates that need for wide receiver here early. So I think you protect your quarterback. He's been knocked for his size, and you want to protect that. That's not a guy you want to be hit a lot. So here I'm going to take my number 1 overall offensive tackle, and that's Jedrick Wills. Out of Alabama. I think he's got left tackle, right tackle versatility, so you can play him anywhere that the roster seems fit. And I think he'll really, really allow this team, who's a pass happy team, and that's what he is. He's a pass protector. That's where he's at his best. That's his best trait, in my opinion, is his ability his footwork and his hand usage and pass protection. So I think that's a very good match where it'll allow Kyler Murray a little bit more time to get it to these dynamic playmakers that they have all over the field.
Protecting the investment. Next, 9th, Jacksonville Jaguars. They're in the rebuilding stage. They let go of Nick Foles. Who do you got, Alex?
Yeah, this pick, especially with a lot of their defensive players on the move, it's obviously going to be a defensive player in my opinion. I've seen wide receiver pegged here. I think DJ Chark breaking out last year really takes care of that concern. I know they have some other playmakers in Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook and so on. I think here they're going to take their guy on the interior. Now, whether that's Derek Brown or Javon Kinlaw is kind of uncertain, but I'm going to take my number 1 ranked guy, just a hair over Javon Kinlaw, is Derek Brown for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Derek Brown from Auburn, defensive tackle. Next, we're going up, AFC North, Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, this position need is obvious. It's offensive tackle. They are decimated at that position. They badly need a left tackle. Both guys here are really, really talented. One carries a little bit more upside, and that's Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. He's the higher upside guy with his size and speed and athleticism. It's ridiculous. But Tristan Wirfs right here is the safer option. And for a team that should, on paper, be competing for a Super Bowl at this time, I think you got to take the guy that's gonna fill that role right away. And I think Tristan Wirfs has a better chance of doing that.
Definitely, his stock is up. The New York Jets, number 11.
Yeah, so the Jets, their 3 biggest needs are all on the board here. Offensive tackle, I know they need a really bad. Offensive line in general, they definitely need an upgrade at the edge rusher position, and they do need a wide receiver, especially with Robbie Anderson out the door. So here I'm going to take the wide receiver here that's going to make Sam Darnold's life easy, and that's CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
Interesting. CeeDee Lamb's my wide receiver 1. He's one of those playmakers. He thrives in getting the ball in his hands and let him do work after the catch. He's been compared to Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, and I really like the DeAndre Hopkins mold or comparison. He's a sure-handed receiver, and God, he's so hard to bring down. He has some ridiculous highlights where you'll pause it and you'll say, there's 5 guys around him right now, but what if I told you he scores a touchdown in this play? And you press play and he does. That's the kind of playmaker he is. And I think, Sam Darnold needs a receiver. Robbie Anderson's a good receiver, obviously letting him go. He's a deep threat, but he really needs a receiver that he can just get the ball in his hands quick, make life easy on him, and I think CeeDee Lamb can do that for him.
Let's go out west. Las Vegas Raiders making some noise. Who do you got?
Yeah, this one's tough. The Raiders have a mold that they like. They really, really like someone to have a trait about them that's ridiculous, that makes them a guy. Whether that's toughness, maybe someone that can lay the hit stick, or it's someone that's super, super fast. But here I'm going to take a wide receiver by the name of Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, probably the most polished route runner that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Obviously, I'm a younger guy, so in my lifetime, he's probably the most polished route runner I have ever seen. And that's with Amari Cooper, with Stephon Diggs, with Keenan Allen, like Jerry Jeudy coming out of college, he's gonna walk into the NFL as a top 5 route runner, and you don't see that very often.
Jerry Jeudy from Alabama going to the Raiders, quite interesting. San Francisco 49ers, they traded up to number 13. Alex, who do you got?
Yeah, this one's interesting. I haven't had a lot of time to digest this spot here, just because they just made the trade, the DeForest Buckner trade, to move up to 13. Obviously, corner's one of their biggest needs. They could go wide receiver here, but I think Kyle Shanahan does a really good job of making middling wide receivers really successful in his system. Yeah, I'm going to go corner, and I might turn some heads here. Dang, this one's a tough one. This one really is a tough one. I'm going to take – yeah, it really is. So I'm actually going to take my 4th ranked corner, which sounds crazy, but they're really close. But I think for where San Francisco is as a roster, he's the safest pick. He's a plug-and-play guy that you know what he is, and he's going to do well, and that's Christian Fulton out of LSU.
Christian Fulton will be joining Richard Sherman.
Yeah, I think San Francisco's in their Super Bowl window. Obviously, they just played in it this past year. Unfortunately, lost to the Chiefs. I think they're in their window, obviously, and Christian Fulton out of those top remaining corners is the safest. I think he's gonna be a heavy contributor right away for them.
Number 14, the Tom Brady Buccaneers. Who you got?
Yeah. Oh, you got to protect the old man, and you got to protect him with Mekhi Becton. His size, his athleticism for his size makes no sense whatsoever. And so to be able to get him at 14, as long as they get one of those offensive tackles, I think they're in good hands. I know Javon Kinlaw's been pegged to them quite a bit, but you got to protect Tom Brady. I mean, the Patriots have done a great job of that over the course of the last couple decades almost. And Tampa Bay, they have a solid offensive line. They're really missing that guy on the outside, so Mekhi Becton can plug in that hole.
Let's go up to the to the mountains. The Denver Broncos at number 15.
Yeah, this is one of the easier picks. I feel like it's obvious who they want here, and he fell, and that's Henry Ruggs III. They want speed. They have Drew Lock as their quarterback of the future, it looks like, and Drew Lock is known for his big arm. So why not get him the best deep threat in this class, and that's Henry Ruggs. Obviously running a 4.27, he has ridiculous speed, and I think he has underrated aspects to his game because everyone focuses on the speed, and that's his route running and his ability to catch in traffic. He has some strength to him. He's not like some of these other speedy wide receivers in this class, like KJ Hamler. Like he really can catch the ball through traffic. He's not afraid of physicality, and I think he'd be a great pairing in this offense for sure with Courtland Sutton.
What do you think is like the talent-wise between Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy?
I think Jerry Jeudy is a half a tier ahead, I guess you could say. Henry Ruggs is great, but what Jerry Jeudy, the biggest trait that translates to the next level, in my opinion, from college to the pros, is being able to separate. And Henry Ruggs does that in his own right. He does it a lot more with his speed, whereas Jerry Jeudy focuses more on the nuance of the footwork of the route running. So I think they're both very great prospects. They're undoubtedly first-round prospects. But I have Jerry Jeudy. There are concerns about his frame and his size going into the NFL. But his ability to just make life easy on the quarterback, you saw that at Alabama with Tua. It just makes it so simple, and he's someone that any team would love to have. Obviously, any team would love to have Henry Ruggs as well, but there's a lot more projection with Henry Ruggs than there is with Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion.
Let's go to Atlanta Falcons, which they really boosted up their offense, adding Todd Gurley. Who do you got?
Yeah, so this actually is a dream scenario for the Falcons, and I didn't do this on purpose. I know I'm a Falcons fan. But you really get your pick of an edge rusher in Kayvon Chasen, my second-rated edge rusher, one of the top corners in C.J. Henderson out of Florida, or Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. This really, like I said, is a dream scenario for the Falcons. Javon Kinlaw is ranked highest on my board out of these guys. However, the Falcons, after parting ways with Desmond Trufant, are in dire need of an outside corner. Going into the season with Isaiah Oliver as our number one corner doesn't sit well with me. So here I'm going to take C.J. Henderson, the corner out of Florida.
C.J. Henderson. Interesting. Next, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys. Obviously secondary. Everyone knows that's a big need of theirs. I don't know how much I love the fit here. Actually, here we go. We're going to go with a versatile defensive back in Xavier McKinney out of Alabama. He can do anything you need him to for the defense. He can play back in deep zones. He can play in a robber roll over the middle of the field and drop down in the box. He can blitz off the edge. He can play in man coverage on your slot receivers. He really can do it all, and I really, really like Xavier McKinney for this defense.
Miami Dolphins with their second pick in the first round. Who do you got, Alex?
Yeah, I think they're jumping for joy here. They got Caleb Von Chasen to fall to them. Edge rusher is a big need of theirs, and the second best one fell to them at 18. I think they're jumping for joy. That's an easy pick for me.
Which I did hear, which I actually was seeing another mock draft that had him, Caleb Chasen going to the Cowboys. I've seen that in other mocks.
But. Yeah, I don't hate that either, but I think that secondary help is just it's a bigger hole for them right now.
Number 19th, back to Las Vegas. What you got?
Yeah, Las Vegas. So here I've seen a few different routes that people have gone with this pick. But I talked about this earlier with Las Vegas's first pick, that they have a type. And I mentioned that gritty defensive player that loves to lay down the boom, and that's Kenneth Murray. So that's who I'm going to select here. Linebacker out of Oklahoma. He flies all over the field, especially for his size. He's got a ridiculous size to speed ratio. He can cover well, but he really, really loves to lay down the boom in the run game, whether that's going sideline to sideline or filling a gap. I think John Gruden and Mike Mayock are both going to fall in love with what Kenneth Murray brings to the table.
Kenneth Murray to the Raiders. Next, back to Jaguars. Second pick in the first round. Who you got?
Yeah, Jacksonville, they have to go corner. They took, Derek Brown in the first pick in this mock for me, but they got to go corner. That's such a hole for them. So I'm going to take my best rated available guy, and that's Jeff Gladney out of TCU. Really, really gritty defender that loves to close down on the ball. He has a swagger to him that I think Jacksonville's going to fall in love with. I love that match, actually.
Jeff Gladney to Jacksonville. Next to the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. Who do you got?
Ooh, God, they need receivers. They need corners. All the good corners, all the first-round corners are off the board. They need speed. They would love Henry Ruggs. That didn't happen. They would love Christian Fulton. That didn't happen. They'd be cool with Jalen Reagor, or not Jalen Reagor. Jeff Gladney, that didn't happen. So I'm going to go back-to-back TCU, and I am, like I already spoiled it, I'm taking Jalen Reagor out of TCU, the wide receiver. Speedy guy, deep threat guy that I think will pair very nicely in Philadelphia's offense.
Next, up north, Minnesota Vikings.
I would love to go corner here. I've seen Jeff Gladney pegged here a lot. Obviously, he's off the board here. There's no reason, and if I were actually constructing a mock draft, I would not let this guy fall this far because he's a top 12 prospect for me, and we're here at pick 22, and he's still here. But there was I got past a couple of teams that could use him, and then there was nobody that really needed this position. But that's Javon Kinlaw. There's no reason he should still be here. So Minnesota getting him here, obviously a very talented team. They're jumping for joy. That's one of the best prospects. Obviously, Senior Bowl was huge for him. He dominated that week. He had a great combine. Javon Kinlaw is one of my guys in this class, so I can't believe I let him fall this far. It's just couldn't find the fit. A
Gamecock that becomes a Vikings. Patriots, an interesting team. to maybe select Jordan Love after Brady, or they're gonna stick with Stidham for another year. Who do you got, Alex?
Yeah, this one is an interesting one, like you said. Um, I haven't done too many full first round mock drafts since the Brady move, so I haven't been put in this situation yet. But I think that Jordan Love's the pick. Jordan Love's the next best quarterback here. Obviously, he's a developmental quarterback. I wouldn't be in love with him starting day one, and if he goes to the Patriots, that could be a possibility. I would prefer him to sit behind a Tom Brady or Drew Brees for a year or two before being pushed into the starting role, kind of how Patrick Mahomes was. I think if you develop him in the right way, he has that kind of upside, that Patrick Mahomes upside, and that's why he's pegged as a first round prospect. But his floor is really low as well. So I'm not in love with that fit at this point with Brady gone, because I feel like if he goes to the Patriots, he's a day one starter. But there's no, that upside in that system. Yeah, that's a match. That's a great match.
Yeah, Jordan Love has been an interesting quarterback. I've been seeing his stock going up, going down. Some people can see him going early. Some people just see him late. He's an interesting character. He could be Plan B for some teams, but also a dark horse. Do you think he might surprise people, or do you think he'll be in that 20 to 32 range?
No, I think someone will take him before the 20s. Someone, whether I thought the Colts were going to be a landing spot. Obviously, trading for DeForest Buckner at 13 to get rid of that pick and put San Francisco there. Yeah, that's a tough one. I could honestly see Tampa. If Tampa, it looks like Tampa's buying in for this next year to two stretch, so I don't see them necessarily going quarterback, but I love that fit. I think, if someone's sitting in the top 20 doesn't go Jordan Love, I think someone's going to trade up to take him, because there's no denying that ceiling isn't intriguing enough to spend a middle of the first round pick on. Like I said, with the upside of Patrick Mahomes, someone wants to take him in the top 20.
Let's go down south. New Orleans Saints. What do you got?
Yeah, so obviously they need linebackers. They're pretty thin there. And I have one linebacker I love here still. But they also need another target outside of Michael Thomas. So I'm kind of – and it's funny with it being New Orleans here in this position, because I'm stuck between two LSU kids. I'm stuck between Patrick Queen, the linebacker, and Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver. I think I'm going to go Queen here, simply for the fact that I feel like there's a lot more value on days 2 and 3 at wide receiver than there is at linebacker in this class. I think linebacker class has their top 3 guys, and then it really kind of takes a fall off. Whereas wide receiver, I think there's a lot of value to be had on day 2 especially, that I think the Saints will take advantage of. So I'm going to go Patrick Queen at LSU linebacker.
Patrick Queen, Alex says. Then again, Vikings, another pick in the first round. Who you got?
Yeah.
They so still go Jordan Love.
No, Jordan Love's off the board.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if he didn't go,
yeah. That could be a team with Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. That's a fit. I don't hate. Yeah, this one's a tough one as well. Obviously losing Stephon Diggs, wide receiver becomes an option here that it wasn't before, really, on day 1. So I could go Justin Jefferson here. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver at LSU, go back-to-back LSU kids.
Justin Jefferson, Vikings are looking good. Back to the Dolphins, third pick in their first round. Are they looking pretty still? Who does Alex have?
Yeah, this one's interesting. I'd love to take an offensive tackle here, and people have pegged Josh Jones out of Houston here. I don't love him in the first round. I don't care how dire your need is. Ezra Cleveland had a great combine. I don't like him in the first round at all. Lucas Niang, he had hip surgery this past year, but fully healthy. I wouldn't mind taking him here. And I know Dolphins fans really, really want to take care of that offensive tackle position, but I just don't love any of these guys here. I think if you punt this offensive tackle pick, to that early second round pick that they have, I think that's where you're going to get more value. So here I'm actually going to take just the best player available. And for me, that's going to be DeAndre Swift, running back out of Georgia. Um, so DeAndre Swift, he brings a lot to the pass, Alvin Kamara type. I think his contact balance is a very underrated aspect of his game. A lot of people just like to peg him as this pass catching running back, like he's Deion Lewis or something. But he's way more than that. He's hard to bring down, whether that's by his contact balance or that's by him making you whiff altogether. He's one of those running back prospects that's really, really hard to bring down. I really like J.K. Dobbins as well, so I could see that being a great fit too. But here I'm just going to take my number one ranked guy, and that's DeAndre Swift.
Being a Dolphin fan, that is a cherry on top. DeAndre Swift to Chison. I mean, so far good job for the Dolphins. But
that's a great haul, I'm saying.
Yeah, a lot of good moving parts going on there. So,
right.
But going to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle Seahawks makes their first appearance. Who do they take?
Yeah, this has been a fit that I've seen a lot of lately, and that's Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State. Obviously, they have an edge rush need, a defensive end need. There's been some questions about his character with a bullying scandal going around Penn State, but that's really kind of quieted down. I really haven't seen an update on it, so I guess it kind of fell through. There wasn't enough evidence to go around. So interviews are going to be very important for him. So I know he's been talking with a bunch of these teams on the back half of the first round. And I'm sure that's been a question on a lot of teams' radars. So given that, he's interviewing well and everything, I think he's a lock for the first round, somewhere between 25 and 32.
Yetur Gross-Matos, Penn State, goes Seahawks, according to Alex. Next, going to Baltimore Ravens. Defense wins championships. Who you got?
Yeah, so they could use a linebacker here. None of the first round caliber linebackers are here, so I'm going to go with actually a wide receiver. Last year they brought in Marquise Hollywood Brown, who is your speedy deep threat, undersized guy. But here I'm going to take a bigger body guy that has a larger catch radius. So Lamar Jackson, he can be one of those red zone threats he can just throw it up to, and that's going to be Denzel Mims out of Baylor. He's someone that's really ascended up draft boards here in the last few months, especially after the combine that he had. I really, really like Denzel Mims. I have him as a fringe first-round caliber prospect, but I think this is a great fit, and I think he would be really successful in Baltimore.
Denzel Mims goes to Baltimore. Let's go to Tennessee Titans making some noise, re-signing Tannehill. Who do you got?
Yeah, so obviously they also let Jarrell Casey walk, or traded him, I should say. And I really like this defensive tackle class at the top. You have Neville Gallimore out of Oklahoma, Ross Blacklock out of TCU, Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M. It's a great group, and here I'm going to go with actually my highest-ranked guy and the guy that I think brings the most, well, maybe not the most versatility. Neville Gallimore brings a lot of versatility, but that's Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M. He's a really good interior pass rusher that can move all around the defensive line, kind of bring what Jarrell Casey brought and just kind of replace, plug and play. I think he has a lot of upside. He's actually a first-round grade for me, so I think it's a great pick.
Down south, up north to the Tundra, Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. Obviously, Jimmy Graham's gone, so they need a tight end, but there is no tight ends that I would take in the first round here this year. I'm actually going to go with a receiver. Devontae Adams needs a counterpart to kind of take some coverage off of him. And I'm actually going to take someone that can do a lot of things for an offense, and that's Laviska Shenault Jr. out of Colorado. Gadget-style player. You can line him up at running back. You can have him in motion taking swing routes. You can have him move up the field vertically. He can do a lot of things. Obviously, medicals are a question, and there's a lot of questions to be unanswered about his injury history. But if he can stay healthy, he's just a Swiss Army knife. I know that's what people keep calling him. But I think if you're going to get the most value out of him, it's going to be in an offense like Green Bay, where you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who can get really creative.
Again, back to San Francisco 49ers at 31st pick. Alex, who do you have?
Yeah, this one's a tough one too. They got their corner need with Christian Fulton earlier. Here I'm going to take a good wide receiver, actually. I think, they have a bunch of depth pieces, but they don't have that true number one guy. And I'm going to take a guy that is kind of all over the place in people's rankings, but I really, really like him. I just actually rewatched his film last night, so maybe that's what's talking. But Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State is a great, his length, his size, his route running ability at that size, his hands, his catch radius. He's a full package. He can help on special teams if you need him to. I think that's a great pick where you can do a lot with. Jimmy Garoppolo would love to have a receiver like Brandon Ayuk on the outside.
Brandon Ayuk goes to the Niners. And finally, the Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so here this is going to be my pick to talk about one of my guys in this class, and I'm half of it's because I can say his name, half of it's because this man is a dog on film, and that is the cornerback from Auburn, Noah Igbenogany. He loves to play in press. Does really, really, really good in press. He's a really athletic guy. He's only been playing football for a few years. In the cornerback position specifically. So he's really, really raw. There's a lot of potential there. But I think he's a plug-and-play guy with even higher upside. So I really, really like Noah Igbenogany. I think he can fill that outside cornerback role that the Kansas City Chiefs need and help them compete for another championship.
And there you have it. Alex with his NFL mock-up as of March 30th, 2020. Alex, do you see any changes, any trades you could see between now and April 23rd?
Yeah, obviously we talked about the number 3 pick and how that's a big trade-up opportunity. The Falcons have been pegged as a team that could potentially trade up for their guy. Obviously they traded they had 2 second-round picks with the Mohamed Sanu trade in the middle of the season to the Patriots, but they traded one of those second-rounders for Hayden Hurst, a tight end out of Baltimore, but I think there's someone that could potentially trade up. Philadelphia is another team that I know a lot of their fan base wants them to get very specific players, and it looks like they might have to trade up to get a Henry Ruggs or a Christian Fulton, who I think would both be great fits in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is another team that I could see trading up. And just to give you one more, I think that someone will look – my bold prediction is someone's going to look to trade up to those last 3 picks, Green Bay, San Francisco, and Kansas City Chiefs. Someone's going to look to trade up from the early to mid-second round to that late first round. I'm going to go ahead and call it, and I'm going to say that I think the Chicago Bears do what they can to try to make a trade up. They've already lost a lot of draft capital with the Khalil Mack trade to the Raiders, but I think they're a team that really wants to get aggressive here. They're not far off from being a contender. I think they're a team that makes a move up into the first round. Something
to definitely look at. Of course, the NFL draft is on April 23rd to the 25th. Alex is very on top of it. People from the comments, I know you've already said it, but just to reiterate, what are your top quarterbacks in order for the NFL draft?
You talking about me?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So my quarterback rankings right now, obviously Joe Burrow is number 1. I have Tua Tagovailoa just barely edging out Justin Herbert at 2. Justin Herbert's at 3, obviously, at that point. The upside of Jordan Love brings him to quarterback 4 for me. After Jordan Love, it becomes like a pick-your-flavor situation and what you value. For me, quarterback 5 kind of goes back to the upside factor. And for me, that is Jacob Eason as quarterback 5. I have Jake Fromm actually at quarterback 6. I think the intangibles that he brings to the position is really important. I think a lot of NFL teams are going to value that. Jalen Hurts at 7. I think he's an improved passer over the last couple of years, and I think even since the end of the season, he's really honed in on his craft as a passer. Obviously, we know what he brings to the running game, but and the intangible side of things, much like Jake Fromm, but I think he's working on being a better passer. And I think that's really like the consensus top 7 in some order. After that, just some other names to look out for. Anthony Gordon out of Washington State is my QB 8. Just has great arm talent. and really has a knack for getting the ball in his playmakers' hands. Nate Stanley is my quarterback 9 out of Iowa. Just big, strong arm, has some upside. And then number 10, a sleeper quarterback that I think that should be on people's radars a little bit more than he is right now is Oregon State's Jake Luton. I think he really improved from every year that he started there with the Beavers, but he really takes care of the ball and he really pushes it downfield. I think he's someone to look at, maybe early day 3 that can be one of those career backups that can come in and spot start if you have an injury problem at the quarterback position. I think he can be really successful.
Something to definitely look at. Well, you're very in depth with these quarterbacks. I didn't go that deep to Oregon State, but this is very key players to look at down the road. Obviously, down in the draft order. There's just currently there's 3 free agents and could make an impact to this draft decisions. Andy Dalton, Cam Newton, and James Winston. Do you think they'll end up anywhere, and where do you think they'll go?
Yeah, I think they find a spot. I think a lot of it's going to be when they realize that they're not going to get a starting job and they're not going to be paid starting job money. Andy Dalton, obviously the Patriots are still a question mark as to what they're going to do. It looks like they may just commit to Jarrett Stidham, a quarterback that came out of Auburn last year. That I don't love him as a quarterback. He doesn't like to push the ball downfield, not very successful pushing downfield, but kind of question his poise and against pressure. But, if the Patriots want to commit to him, then that really just drives down that market even more so. I think Jameis Winston, I don't see a way that a team pays him starting money. Same thing with Andy Dalton. Cam Newton's kind of the question mark. Really comes down to health for him, and this is like the worst offseason Cam Newton can have this problem right now, just because he can't just get on a plane and fly to LA, for instance, and meet with the Chargers and have meet with their medical staff. It's a lot more complicated than that. But I think Cam Newton's the one quarterback that does have a chance to land a starting job. Obviously, I don't know with his, he's a loud personality, I guess you could call it, and I think that's going to drive some teams away. Whereas it's going to, I don't know what teams it would be, but there's some teams that might like that, But if no teams are looking for him to be a starting caliber quarterback for them, that loud personality might be a distraction more than anything. Just because, backup quarterbacks, you don't want being that loud personality, coming up dressed like he came straight out of the Louis Vuitton store. Like, that's not what a lot of quarterback franchises want in their locker room as a backup quarterback. So they're all 3 individually very interesting conversations, but I don't think any of them are going to make a move till after the draft, if I'm being honest. A lot of the teams that are kind of fringe quarterback needy teams like the Chargers and the Panthers and so on and so forth, I think they're going to wait out to see how this draft turns out for them and how the rest of this free agency period turns out for them.
Yeah, this has been a very exciting free agency, and of course, I hope be a great NFL draft. I'm not sure if it's because of the coronavirus makes it a little bit more hyped up, but
right.
This is a deep quarterback class and a deep wide receiver class, so there's definitely a lot of excitement, to see, and of course it'll be probably aired from the studio. Would have loved to see it from Las Vegas, but you can see Alex's picks from March 30th today on our show notes below. And of course, we'll be obviously updating our mock drafts throughout the next couple of weeks. NFL draft is April 23rd to the 25th. Should be pretty exciting. Alex, what is the best way to reach you?
Twitter, at Alex Gilstrap. It's very simple. So at Alex Gilstrap. You can follow me on Twitter. I respond usually to any comments or DMs that I get, as long as it's not hateful. I love to have conversation, especially when it comes to the NFL draft. So, I like hearing different opinions. It makes me have to go back to the tape and see if I'm missing something. So if you have any remarks about this mock draft that we talked about today, or you have any questions about individual prospects and what my thoughts are, just hit me up on Twitter, like I said, at Alex Gilstrap.
Alex Gilstrap is a very popular, a rising star when it comes to NFL mock-ups in the NFL draft. Are you also into college recruiting?
Not as much. I spend so much time watching film. This week alone, especially with the coronavirus, I've probably watched I'll say in the past week since today's Monday. But I've watched probably 45 hours of tape. That's not including putting together the scouting reports. That's just watching tape alone. So, there's so much time that's spent into the scouting of college football prospects, into the NFL. I look at it a little bit more in the summer, during that down period of NFL scouting. I look at it a little bit more, just kind of see who the top guys are, just to kind of get their names on my radar for the future. But I don't look too much into like watching tape or anything. I just kind of keep up with the names.
And there you have it. Alex Gilstrap on Twitter, at Alex Gilstrap. You can see his Twitter username in the show notes as well. And, of course, you can reach us at thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net. We'll be giving updates throughout the next couple of weeks and days. You can go on to thesportscast.net and read Mr. Ty Turner's mock draft number 1. There'll be several of them for the next couple of weeks, and we'll be having a super show a day or 2 days prior to the NFL draft. All of us at the Sportscast will be there, and we'll be discussing our picks. I'm still be making my picks as well. Alex is actually influencing me right now because I'm looking at some players. Oh, maybe he's right. Maybe that player can go to Los Angeles, or this team can go to the Raiders. But a lot of things could happen in the NFL. The drama is with the NFL. And, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at TheSportsCast1, TheSportsCast1. Please leave a rating and review. Alex, any closing words?
Yeah, just excited about this draft. I think it's going to be fun. It's a very unique year with all the coronavirus stuff going on and the inability to meet in person these teams and prospects. So it'll be really interesting to see the tactics and the strategy that a lot of teams take going into this draft. And I'm really excited to see where a lot of these players land.
We'd like to see some twists. I'd like to see some dark horses out of somewhere. It always happens. There's still time for it. Roger Goodell says the draft is still on. Anyways, Alex, always a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on to the Sportscast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.